Okay, so Fran, I have 2 quilts under my belt and I think I'm ready to make more, but I'm having a little trouble picking my patterns.
Well, that's a great question. We've got a great video coming up for you. Keep watching. Hi, it's Fran Morgan.
And Hannah with Café.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, we have the big question. What comes first, the fabric or the pattern?
It's an excellent question because I feel like I'm a new quilter and sometimes I find a pattern and I'm like, oh, I really want to make that one sometime and I need to pick the fabric. But then other times I find my fabric and then I don't know what to do with my fabric after I found it.
So it is a little bit of a dilemma that I think every quilter goes through. So today we're going to step through fabrics and patterns that work really well with that fabric and why we chose the pattern that we did with the fabric that we have. So it's going to be very interesting. And let's jump right in and start with our very first quilt, which is So Easy. Now, So Easy has these darling little animals in the fabric with trees and then stars and trees, and this is a super fast, super easy quilt to put together. Let's put it on the table, look at the fabric, and explain why we chose this pattern for this fabric. So this particular fabric, I really love it. It's got this great tossed print on it of these animals. Now,
They're so cute.
tossed, and I just want to kind of cover this because this is part of determining patterns and fabric is whether it's tossed or directional. Tossed meaning the print on the fabric goes all different directions and it does not matter how you turn the block.
Gotcha.
Okay. A directional fabric, the best example of that would be like a stripe where it has a definite direction in the print of the fabric. So this is great because this is a tossed print, which means when we build our quilt, you can put the fabric any direction, and this is our number 1. And you can see here that this is a nice size block on this quilt, and this is the perfect size print for this block. If this print was larger, then you may not see as much of the beautiful print in this size block.
You would cut it up.
You would cut it up a little too much. So this is actually the perfect size here. Now, our number 1 is these great animals. Our number 2 is this pretty green, and it has the same size block. And then our number 3, also a smaller print, is in the alternate block. Now this works really well with this because of the smaller blocks and this smaller print. It makes a darling, darling quilt.
And this one looks very simple to put together too.
Yes, very easy. So that's perfect. This quilt information is 8022087. It is called Neighborhood Pals, and that was our So Easy pattern. Now that pattern is available in our Quilt Favorites book, but it is also available as an individual. Now we're not going to stop there. I've got a few pieces and parts with a couple of other quilts using this same fabric. So let's check this out. This quilt is called County Fair. And this is great because once again, it's got a nice big block, but it has these other bordered blocks and pinwheel blocks that alternate really well, but still a very good size for our Neighborhood Pals print. So let's look at that. So in this case, we have beautiful movement in this, which I love because pinwheels to me give that great energy that's going on. And so we have our little Neighborhood Pals block here, and you can see still a very nice size block for the print. And it's, of course, tossed as we mentioned before. And
that looks so cute.
this is so precious. So you know what? I am going to move this just slightly here so that we can get this entire, and then this one would go here. Now, once again, I want to mention, because this is a little bit smaller print here in our number 3 fabric, which is bordering our focus, it shows up really well. So that is a great use of a smaller print. And then we have our pinwheel block using our fabrics 2 and 3. Once again, a little bit smaller print, very nice in that block. And then here it is in our solid with our focus. Do you have that cropping tool?
I do.
So this fabric works very well in this pattern as well. Now this one is a little bit more, it is not a difficult pattern to do, but it is a little bit more involved because there's 3 different blocks.
Yeah, and you have to make a half square triangle, which I know they look really intimidating, but we have a great tutorial, and I've actually followed our tutorial, and I've made a couple, not for a quilt. I just wanted to see if I could do it, and I could.
Yeah, and so it's very simple. And this is great because I want to mention again, once again, we've got some tossed prints here, and it works perfectly well. Very nice size print and contrast. And this works in this pattern perfectly. Yeah. So I have one more pieces and parts to show you using the Neighborhood Pals.
Oh my gosh.
So let's look at that.
Well, and that's such a cool thing too, is you pull these quilts, Fran. Any 3 yards works with any of our patterns. So you have a lot of freedom to pick your style and your aesthetic for your quilts too.
Yes, and that's really, cool. Really good point. So I like that. It makes it very easy. So our next pattern that we're going to show you is 9+1, and this is great. So once again, we have a nice size block here, which will be our focus fabric, and then our little 9 patch here, which is a little bit smaller for that smaller print. So let's check that out. Look at our pieces and parts here, which are perfect. Now this solid block for our focus fabric is a little bit smaller than the County Fair block, but as you can see, you can still get a really good feel for what's happening here.
You have a lot of animals still. It's nice and big.
You still get the feel of the print, and that's really, as a quilter, that's what I love, is putting the fabrics together and being able to see what's there. So, and then here's our second focus block, and then here, we've got our 9 patch, and as you can see, because the 9 patch gets a little bit, they're a little bit smaller blocks put together, the smaller prints work very, very well. And I also want to mention that there's plenty of contrast in these 2 prints so that you get a really nice pop so that you can see the 9 patch and the great pattern that it creates whenever it goes on the quilt.
And then these are just made with strip piecing too, right?
Oh, they are.
This one strip set and then that one strip set?
Yes, that makes it very, very simple.
You can whip this quilt out like that.
Yes. Yes, you are learning so much.
I'm trying to pick up. Every time I see a quilt now, I look at it and I'm like, how is that block made? And I'm trying to figure it out. I can't always do it. But.
So love it, love it. Now, just as a reminder, the kit information on this one is 8022087. It is called Neighborhood Pals, and we had lots of different patterns that we were showing you, but when you order the kit, you will receive the So Easy pattern. So what do we have next?
Okay, so the next one, this is the So Quick quilts, and this is the first quilt that I ever made, not the specific one, but the first pattern I used. So let's put it up on the table and we can talk about it. This one has a lot of versatility. I feel like everything looks good in So Quick.
Oh yes.
Because you've got this nice big block and you have this 4-patch, which it's a generous size 4-patch. So it's not like gigantic, but it's big enough that if you have a small print or even sometimes a medium print, it still looks good in it.
That's great. That's a good point. So this is beautiful, beautiful fabric you have to show us here. Yeah. And I want to mention, you can see here, this looks like it may be a directional fabric.
Oh, that's true.
Because you want the birds to all be upside right and not standing on their heads.
That's true. That's a good point. But this one works really well with directionals too. At least whenever I made it, you make your rows like this, so you just have to watch and make sure that they...
Right.
Because I made it with cats, and I had to make sure that none of them were...
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Not upside down.
Absolutely.
But I didn't even notice that they were directional.
But this is going to look great in that big block.
Yeah, so this is going to go right here. And then we've got, I love this brown paisley that goes with it. It kind of picks up the swirls and designs in that first fabric. That's going to be in your 4-patch and your border. And then it's going to also have your little flower as your number 3, and that will be the other fabric in your 4-patch.
Oh, that's great.
So we have a rendering of this. So we're going to go ahead and pop that up on the screen so you can see it. You can see how it's going to turn out. You have your nice big block of your birds, so you can really show that off. And then you have that fun 4-patch with your other 2 colors.
I really love that, and I think the birds show up really well in that nice block, so that's an excellent choice. So our other 2 renderings that we have here, we're going to put those up one at a time.
So first off, we have Modern Charm, and that has I think still a bit of a traditional feel to it. Classic kind of, I guess. I don't know if these are the right terms.
Yeah, but I think that's actually a good point, Hannah, because this is a little bit more of a traditional styled fabric. So that is definitely something to consider when you're choosing your pattern, is you may want to choose a pattern that has a little bit more of a traditional slant to it, just to kind of give justice to the beautiful fabric. And it looks like that our Modern Charm also has that nice big block and the contrast between fabrics 2 and 3, which is perfect for this little block here.
Yeah, I really like how that pops with that light brown behind the blue flower. I think that looks gorgeous.
That's great.
But then if you want to go slightly more, I guess, funky, a little more modern, we have another one. We have Happy Go Lucky, and that one has a nice big strip with your birds, so you can see a lot of the birds. And then it has that contrast you were talking about again with the pinwheels.
Which is great. And that happy-go-lucky pattern is perfect because it does have that large strip, so it really does show off the fabric beautifully.
So if you're interested in this kit, that number is 8022186 Pheasant Lodge. And it's the Sew Quick pattern.
Perfect. So if you enjoy watching matching fabrics and quilts and why we do that, you should go check out our new series called the Fabric Matchmaker. We're doing a lot of that for you in that one as well.
Yeah, it's great. It's Fran takes all of these different fabrics that people send in from their stashes, so check it out.
Yeah, it's really fun. So let's see what we have next. So this is our Sweet Times pattern. This is a fun, easy pattern, and this is a great example of a large block with a large print. And I love how our fabrics 2 and 3 contrast so beautifully with our focused fabric. That really shows off well whenever we're doing this pattern. So let's check out the fabric we have for that. Now this fabric is so pretty.
I love it. It's so bright.
I love it. It's one of those fabrics that just make you smile, and I just love it. So as you can see here, it's all these beautiful colors. It kind of almost looks like, you know, you say you have a watercolor look. This almost looks like it's done with crayon.
Oh, yeah.
Is that strange?
No.
But it's a bright, happy fabric, and so whenever we border it with our 2 and 3, it's going to be great.
And really pop.
Now, we've been talking a whole lot about fabric 1 is our focus, and then 2 and 3. So whenever you're selecting your fabrics for each position, the best way to do it is our largest print will be in the focus fabric. That's what I would say is the star of the show. Okay?
The first fabric you fall in love with, maybe.
Yes. Then you take the focus fabric out of the equation and you compare the 2 remaining fabrics. The lightest fabric will be your number 2, and the darkest fabric will be number 3. And all of our 3-yard quilt patterns are written with that in mind so that it really gives you the great contrast in the right places. So in this case, we have our fabric number 1 in this big block. Now we have some pieces and parts. Let me just show you this as we go. So we have this beautiful big block. This bordered with our number 2 fabric, and you can see how beautifully that contrast and just make it look so sunshiny and summery. I just love it.
It kind of looks like a tea set to me for some reason. You know, like an old teacup that has pretty flowers and things painted on it.
I like that.
My mom had some when I was a kid, so I'm seeing that.
That is great. And then we do our secondary block as the same with this big centerpiece and bordered in our number 3 fabric. And then when we put those together, you see how fantastic that is together. So once again, we've got our smaller print in our border, which looks great and has lots of contrast, and our bigger print in our number 1. Perfect selection pattern, pattern selection for this. I think it's great and really shows off your fabric well. The kit is a flower market, and the number is 8022187, and it is Sweet Times from the Easy Peasy book, or that is also available as an individual. Now we have one more using this fabric kit. Let's show you that. This is our Landslide pattern, and this is fantastic because this is a great example of a big block and a big half square triangle. And in order to really show off the pattern or the design in this pattern, we need that contrast, which this fabric kit it does for us. So let's check that out. Like I said, because the half square triangle creates this great movement on the quilt, and you need that, really kind of extreme contrast for that to show up, this is a perfect kit. So if you've got a kit that's got that contrast and it needs a big block, this is a good pattern. So we've got some pieces and parts here, so let me show you that and put these in place. So here's our big pattern here, our big block with the big pattern, our focus fabric. And then we will do that again right down here. And
I like how big these half square triangles are.
I'm not sure. Now that's a great question. I don't know if this is our biggest half square triangle in a pattern or not, but that would be interesting. So if you're familiar with our patterns and you know the answer to that, let us know.
I feel like you're probably right, but yeah, I don't know.
It is really cool. I just love it. So then we have our fabrics 2 and 3 for our big half square triangle. And then once again, our fabrics 2 and 3. And as you can see here, how beautifully that's going to create that line and that movement. So perfect pattern for this fabric choice.
That's very cool how it has, just depending on how you turn a half square triangle in a pattern, it can change the look entirely.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
Absolutely. So what do we have next, Hannah?
Okay, well, next we have Byzantine door. Now this one is actually made in vertical rows, and we have a whole tutorial on that. You should check it out, on how to work with some different quilts that have vertical rows. We've got some great fabric that matches the quilt model, so we'll go ahead and take a look at that. This is your focus, so it's going to go in this one big block. And then something really cool about this pattern is if you have two big focusy kind of prints that you want to show off, this is a really good one for that because you have two big blocks so that you can really show off your fabrics.
That's a great point because sometimes we do have two really large prints. Both of them are gorgeous and we want to share the show with both of them.
Yeah.
This is a great pattern to do that.
Which is awesome. And then we've got this little tan one that goes in your secondary. And then we've sashed it with the red. And I feel like the really high contrast too with this sashing is really important in this one.
I agree. Because it's a double focus like we've mentioned, the calmness of the red really highlights those two prints. I think if we were to have put a print with a third print with it, even a subtle one, it might have just been a little bit too busy. So this is perfect.
So here's your information. 8022037 Bohemian Trellis. And that is available in the Byzantine door pattern, which is an individual, or it is in the book Quick and Easy.
Now what's really cool is I think that we have a couple of renderings that we're going to show you side by side here with the same fabric.
Yeah, so you can see just how easy it is to put it in different things. We have the Byzantine door one, so you can see what it's made up in what you just saw. But then what if you want to do something a little bit different? And we put it in porch rails. So we actually took that secondary one, which we did in a really big block, but put it in a smaller sashing. And it still looks awesome.
It does. It looks really, really good. It's so amazing to be able to see the different patterns with the different fabrics. I think that is so very cool. So very cool. Well, this has been pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, and it's really neat to see them all. Now, if you are looking for a pattern for your 3-yard quilt kit, be sure to go to our website and download 3-yard pattern collection sheet. It's called My Collection Sheet. It's on our free goodies tab on our website. And that'll be able to show you everything that we have available in books and as an individual.
And it's in checklist form too, so you can go through and say, got that.
Yep, which is perfect.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
So we do have a little question for you before we wrap this up today.
Yeah, we got something special coming on Tuesday.
And we want you to answer this question, but this is also a little bit of a hint, okay? So be sure and watch Tuesday. Our question is, what's red and green and will bring you joy this holiday season? What do you think it is? Why don't you let us know? What do you think it is? And we had so much fun today. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to subscribe if you are not currently a subscriber. Hit the bell and we'll give you notification for any upcoming videos and that Tuesday video.
Be sure to check it out. Share with your friends. Tell them we got something coming up that they want to be on the lookout for.
That's right. It's Fran Morgan
And Hannah with Fabric Cafe.
Thank you so much.